This is the retina histology model. So let us start by looking at our layers. This is the sclera, and this is the choroid or the choroid coat, and this is where we have our vascular tunic, part of the vascular tunic. This is representing an artery, and this is where it feeds into a capillary bed, and if we turn this up we can see the capillary bed. And then this is where the capillary feeds into a vein. Now, the retina itself runs from here all the way up to here. And if we look at the layers, what we're first going to see is a bottom layer of pigmented cells. This layer is the layer of photoreceptors, the rods and the cones, and we are looking at the cell bodies of the rods and cones when we look here. This is where you have your synaptic terminals, and what we're looking at here are the bipolar cells, not bipolar neurons, but bipolar cells. Well, these are for sure bipolar cells, and if we follow this up, you'll see where they form synapses with the dendritic ends of the ganglion cells. So you'll notice as we start at the bottom, there are typically more photoreceptor cells, and then the number of bipolar cells decreases, and then when we get to the layer of the ganglion cells, there are even fewer ganglion cells. These long yellow structures here represent the axons of the ganglion cells, and these are going to drape across the retina until they reach the optic disc. And when they reach the optic disc, these fibers are going to become the axons of cranial nerve 2, the optic nerve. So let me rotate this around really quickly. What they're trying to show us with this little schematic diagram is a lot of the rods will feed into, multiple rods will feed into fewer bipolar cells, and then several bipolar cells are going to signal one ganglion cell. And we're going to see this pattern over most of the retina, except where we have the fovea centralis. Now, let me shift this back around really quickly. If you were wondering what this part is over here, this is more of what it would look like underneath a microscope. The cell bodies of the photoreceptors pick up a lot of stain. Then we have the cell bodies of the bipolar cells, and then we have the cell bodies of the ganglion cells. And in terms of layers, starting here, this is our most superficial layer, and as we go farther and farther in, we're going deeper into the layers, and here would be the last layer of the retina. This part over here is an enlargement of this segment right here. So down here at the bottom you can see the pigmented cells again, and you can see how this part of the outer segment of the rods and cones are buried essentially into the processes of the pigmented cells. If you look at the shape of this, you'll notice that it's conical. Think of a traffic cone turned upside down. Where these are straighter, this is a cone, and these are representing the rods. This is the outer segment, here's the inner segment. These are the cell bodies of these photoreceptors, and then at this end over here, you can see it pretty good right there. You've got the synaptic terminal, and what these little brown structures are representing are these dendritic ends of those bipolar cells. And I'm going to turn this model for one last view. And there are a couple things that are really interesting from this view. One is you can see the convolutions of the membrane of the pigmented cells, and you couldn't really see that on the other side. And then this is showing you how the outer segment is essentially little stacks of plates on top of one another. And that pretty much wraps up this model.